What's up, guys? Welcome back to Slop Central, where we serve you slop day, night, evening. I'm pretty sure the two. Anyway, welcome back to the channel, guys. We're gonna be watching another video. Why good games matter? Why good graphics don't matter? Which again, 100% agree with. I don't know why I said again. I 100% agree with this statement, and I will always be saying it. Like, graphics don't matter. Just make a good fucking game, and you'll be great. But yeah, let's go ahead and watch this video, guys.
There's always been an obsession with video game graphics ever since their inception, and as years have passed, graphical technology has improved as hardware has improved, naturally. And seeing the leaps in graphics since the early 2000s has been nothing but amazing to witness during my time as a gamer. But over the last decade, graphical improvements began to mean much less. Comparing games from 2023 to...
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know what the fuck I just said. Yeah, like, I think the PS3 era is when like graphics started to like explode exponentially, basically like growing until it like reached PS4, and then like PS5 it's growing. If it's growing, it's like by maybe 0.5 or point fucking bike. Why are you doing this right now? I fucking hate these bikes. Yeah, it only grows by like such a minute amount that it doesn't really matter, right? Yeah, basically.
2013, I often find that not just a few, but a lot of those games from before 2013 still look better than the ones releasing in current year. Now certainly there are some noticeable improvements if you really focus on the textures and analyze the pic.
How does that make a game any better, right? Like those little details that most people just run past. You have people who would like stay and absorb you could say that, but observe it and say like, yeah, oh god, this game is so beautiful, oh my god, blah blah blah. But if the gameplay is trash, then will they really stay and care? No one will care.
When comparing a modern game to one a decade old, but playing a game like Dishonored from 2012 or Bioshock Infinite from 2013 or even The Order 1886 from 2014,
this was like peak graphics. The Order 1888. Yeah. I never played it though. Never cared for it. It just looks like a cinematic movie trailer game type deal. And I was like, it seems more pretty graphics than actual gameplay. And I turned out I was indeed right when I saw that shit.
Better, you'd think these games were new releases. They just don't look as dated as you might think for being 10 years old. Yet despite the technology getting better since then, very few games can top these games or even match them visually. So why is this? Well, like all things, a tool is only as good as the one who wields it.
Facts.
And when in the right hands, modern game development tools can produce amazingly impressive results. But unfortunately, so many studios have been putting out games that, while graphically...
This game, Dead Island, bro, I remember playing it. I remember playing this game, right? And basically, it was pretty and all, but the gameplay loop was so boring that I got a headache from playing it. Like, it wanted to be a good game. It was a pretty game, sure, but it wasn't a good game to continue investing my time in. I had to just cut it.
Impressive due to their technology that they're built with, end up looking like utter dog shit. A game like Forspoken has great graphics, but looks extremely generic and almost blinding in its visuals in a very washed out and ugly sort of way. Immortals of Avium, a game released just a few days ago running on Unreal Engine 5, is graphically outstanding, but looks like an Unreal Engine asset flip project, even though I know it isn't. The devs probably did work very hard on creating those assets, but it just doesn't...
Has this game, like, it's been released already, right? Is this game any good? I've never seen this game until now. I swear to God.
That way. And it doesn't help that this game in particular is so visually bloated. Like, I love fast-paced games, but I can't tell what the fuck is happening on screen here. The visibility is just awful due to the graphical and artistic style they went for. While I understand that realistic graphics sell to the casual audience, I'm always looking towards companies that have a more distinctive art style instead, even if it is more low poly. Some wrongfully ascribe this generic look of video games to the Unreal Engine itself, but just because a game is made in Unreal doesn't mean they have to look like this. I think Sea of Thieves is a great example of a game that takes advantage of the strengths that the Unreal Engine provides.
Like, he's just talking about the graphics, so I'll let it pass. But isn't this a crap game?
And it's a beautiful
doesn't everybody
game
hate
in
this
many
game?
regards.
Or did Sea of Thieves they hate? What's a Ubisoft game called again? On the Sea of Thieves.
Art style that separates it from a game like, say, Atomic Heart. It's not the engine, it's how it's being used. Firewatch, a game made in the Unity engine,
This
is
is a good
another
game.
example of a game that's a visual treat.
Yeah,
Yet
like
is
you can look at, like, you can see that it's not the graphics aren't like super realistic, but the fidelity, like the way the lighting, everything blends in perfectly. It's a pretty game to look at. You can like immerse yourself in it. You don't need realistic graphics.
not what I would consider AAA graphics. And to get to the main point here, I'm a strong believer that graphics don't really matter. To some degree, sure, but we've reached a point in the last 10 years, and especially in current year, where graphics have mostly plateaued. So art style is everything. And the
Yep.
fact that games from 10 to 15 years ago still hold up really well today is a testament to how true that statement is.
Bioshock
Games
Infinite.
like Rage from 2011 or Stalker from 2006 still hold up incredibly well.
Never played any of
and
these
games
games.
like Fable or Dragon Age and Kingdoms of Amalur employ a timeless art style and visual
Kingdom of Amalur. I think I heard that game. This is it. Fuck
style,
Kingdom of
so they can
Amalur.
be enjoyed for years to come. 2 years ago, with the release of Elden Ring, there was some very strange rage bait online about Elden Ring having bad graphics.
But the thing is, like, it doesn't matter the bad graphics, the fidelity, the art style, the art direction is all great. It makes for a visual treat, even though the graphics aren't super realistic. Like, let's say the Order 88 or that other game. Yeah, Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Graphics are dog shit.
Are you sure about that?
Oh my
The
god, I
graphics
remember this
are dog
nigga.
shit.
I wonder what happened to
The
him.
graphics are dog shit.
No, I know what happened to
The
him.
graphics are dog shit.
I just
But I'd
don't
take
care.
100 different games with an art style half as good as what FromSoft delivered before another Atomic Heart or Immortals of Avium or Forspoken. And I do want to reiterate something I've mentioned in my past videos, and that's that these two things aren't mutually exclusive. You don't have to pick just one. A
You
game
can have both.
amazing graphics and an amazing art style, and even high visibility. I think games like Bioshock and Dishonored perfectly encapsulate that.
Bioshock, bro, that was a great game. Y'all should
But even
play
games
that
like
game.
Doom 2016
I need
and
to play
Eternal are
Eternal,
great looking
finish
games.
Eternal.
And a trick I recently learned about Doom Eternal is that the lighting on the enemies are separate from the environment, so they are always lit and clearly visible, even in darker areas. This in turn makes the game look less cinematic or realistic, but is much better for the gameplay Doom serves, and even the art style. The game director Hugo Martin said that during development for Eternal, they had at first made the lighting come from the environment much like they did with Doom 2016. But in playtesting it felt really bad because oftentimes you couldn't clearly see what it was that got you
Bumbo
killed.
clap.
And with Eternal being a much
Yo,
more punishing game and more fast-paced than 2016,
I saw him back.
visibility took precedent
I saw him
over
back too, you know.
realism.
I saw him
And I
beat-
think
I
what's
saw him
really
back.
important to take away from that is visibility really matters in games. It isn't just Immortals that has this problem, it's a problem I and many others
Especially shooters. I look
have
at it,
with
it
many
pisses
different
me
modern
off.
games.
It pisses me off because I always think it's my fucking computer. But no, it's fucking shit like this. And you have certain skins in games too. Like, I still remember that one Call of Duty skin where it's fucking black eyes. You can see shit. You can see shit.
Now, I primarily play PC on a 27-inch monitor like 4
32.
feet from my face, yet oftentimes there are so many cases where it's almost impossible
Possible
to
to
see
see
an
that
enemy
shit,
that's
bro.
right in front of me. Why does it feel like everyone just blends into everything? Now, some might throw out the realism argument here again, and games going for a more military sim style or something like that should lean into the fact that it's hard to see enemies. And while I can understand that to a certain degree, seeing things in real life is much different than on a screen. Looking at a mountain range in real life versus a picture of that mountain range, your eyes can pick out much more things in person, whereas in a picture you're going to lose a lot of detail because you just have captured a 3D environment but on a 2D plane. And when you play video games, it's on a screen, which is essentially a picture. You aren't going to be able to see the same things on this mountainside in Battlefield 2042 compared to if you
I
saw
couldn't
this
even
mountain
see that
in
fucking
person.
person a while
I think
ago.
back to the 2008 to 2012 era of FPS games, and the textures were a bit lower resolution, but the
Lighting was
character
kinda
models
better.
were often highly detailed, and it really made them stand out by having sharper objects on somewhat of a more blurry backdrop. This made it almost more akin to real life because your eyes can pick out an enemy a bit easier in those older games, especially at a distance. And funnily enough, you'll often see competitive FPS players cranking their graphics down in games in order to have a bit more of a competitive edge.
Yeah, because like Basically,
And while I don't
he'll
think
tell
every
you the
game
low
should look
poly.
like BattleBit, it's been a lot of fun playing that game and having long-ranged engagements in my gameplay.
And
You can
PUBG
actually
too.
see enemies from afar,
PUBG
or see
Mobile.
someone when they peek out from the side of a building.
The mobile version, because of how fucking ugly the graphics are, so it's so low poly when you look out, like out in the distance, and you see someone. It basically looks like
And it
this.
feels great to
Like the
have some of
grass
that
just
long-range
disappears.
gunplay in a Battlefield-style game again, like I did back in Bad Company 2. I think one of the best examples of art style being more important than graphics, though,
Demon
is with the
Souls.
PS5 Demon Souls remake. I think in every way except for graphics,
I haven't
the
played the
remake is
remake. I need to
worse
play
than
the
the
remake.
original. The
Worse. Oh no, I understand. I understand. Like if you played the original on the PS3, R4, no, R3, and on the PS3, you would understand like the way everything looked. Like when I first loaded up that game, everything like it just looked old and like it played old. I never played the PS5 one, so I wouldn't know. But the look, like everything, the colors matched everything. I don't know what to say. It the game was just a pretty game. It was pretty nice to play. It was already pretty nice to be in the environment, the music, everything blended perfect to make like a nice little sandwich that you can and eat. Yeah, massive. Again, I don't know what the new ones look like,
atmosphere is much
but
diminished.
yeah,
The art
the atmosphere basically. He used the perfect word right
direction
here.
became more generic looking, and both the enemy designs and environments have been changed to go against the visual storytelling that the original did so successfully.
I could
And in
see it.
turn, while Elden Ring doesn't have the graphical fidelity of the Demon Souls remake, I think it's a far better looking game because
There's nothing to really compare it to.
of its incredibly strong art direction. Another example
That you can't compare it to the fucking car. You can't compare it to the it's only one Elden Ring, basically. You can't compare the old Elden Ring to the new Elden Ring compared to Demon Souls remake because yeah.
I've mentioned in the past is about the Destiny franchise, where there are many instances where Destiny 1 looks better than Destiny 2. The art direction and lighting of the sequel leaves the game feeling a bit more plastic than its predecessor. And while there is definitely some incredible visuals inside of Destiny 2 areas, it's when comparing places inside both games that you can really start to notice just how big of a drop-off there is in the sequel. Several shots on the Cosmodrome or the moon are noticeably uglier, and even in the reprised
Damn,
raids
it's a
like
lot of
King's
fog.
Fall, great use of shadows and contrasting colors from the original are now washed out and missing detail in the sequel.
True, I can see it.
Some of my favorite games visually are ones that use an almost cartoon aesthetic, like Overwatch, which has a very Pixar-esque look, or games like Kingdoms of Amalur, or the Fable games, or a game like Alice Madness Returns. These
I've never
games
played
all
that
hold
game.
up incredibly well today. Their visual designs have stood the test of time and can be played today without feeling too dated, due to the strength of the art direction and atmospheric design. Now, some games have bad art style and bad graphics, and I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are a pretty good example of that.
Bro, I told you this game it was okay as an experience, but the frames drop way too often. You could literally see the Pokemon moving very fucking slow in the background for no reason. Like man, I'm there thinking about you made it for the console, but yeah, you didn't optimize it for the fucking console. What are you doing, bro? And now they're trying to sell people games for $80. What? What?
Both graphically and artistically, they look like absolute shit. And that's not the Switch's fault. Sword and Shield on the Switch looks much better than Scarlet and Violet, and for some reason, the more 3D and open world the games have gotten, the worse the visuals and art direction. It's both unfortunate and confusing
that?
because a game like Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a game also on the
I need
Switch,
to play this game.
looks pretty good given the hardware, and I was hoping Pokemon's visuals would at least be somewhere in that ballpark by now, especially since it's clearly possible.
I can't even play the fucking game because Nintendo refuses to budge on the price. I think this is $60 for some fucking reason. A 4-year-old game? $60 for what? Maybe longer than 4 years. What may I pay $60 for this one? Mumbo clap, man.
Every time I hear a studio try to sell their game and their focus is on how cinematic or photorealistic it is, I usually just check out. The industry spends so much time trying to make games realistic without remembering that games should focus more on the gameplay and its art direction. It's like they say, every time a game developer brags about how cinematic their game is, an angel loses its wings. I care
What
much less
fucking
about a world
saying is
that
that?
looks ultra-realistic and more about a world that feels realistic, with a clear, cohesive art direction and world building through its environmental storytelling. And I think sometimes people confuse themselves into thinking
I only care about good gameplay. Fuck graphics. I don't even care about the story. Gameplay trumps all. If there's a list, it will be like gameplay, and then we have story, and then we have graphics, but we put like gameplay above, like right under gameplay. So we have gameplay and then story, then graphics, then whatever. Maybe multiplayer if you're into that.
a game that looks realistic is more immersive, but I think that has very little to do with making a game immersive. It's more about believability. Do the visuals, sound design, music, and tone of the game mesh well? If so, then that's all that's needed to immerse someone. Going back to Atomic Heart for a second, I think a big reason why it failed to immerse me is despite its impressive visuals graphically, the game's tone and art direction feels very generic.
You can see it's really bland, the gray color aesthetic. Nah, not even Bioshock was like. I think Bioshock was more like a green, darkish thing.
Comparison to Bioshock at every turn. And I make the comparison to Bioshock because obviously it was a very clear inspiration and is often compared
Infinite.
to Bioshock.
I'm thinking
but in
about
Atomic
one.
Heart, the Unreal Engine technology is all that's selling that game because the story, the gameplay, and the atmosphere feels pretty uninspired, which is unfortunate. It's a game that otherwise could have been really interesting.
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting game. An interesting story.
Sometimes I look at games from 2014 and 2015 and think that visuals peaked back then. There's of course exceptions to that in recent years, but I think it's a bit wild that Assassin's Creed Unity from 2014 somehow still has more striking visuals and lighting than the newer games. The Order 8...
This gameplay looks better than fucking Shadows. I haven't played Unity or Shadows, so I wouldn't know.
1886, despite being a fairly average game, looks absolutely amazing. Much better than a lot of Unreal Engine titles in recent years. Dying Light...
Alright, wait. The thing with the Order 8, it was meant to be like a tech... I wouldn't say a tech demo, but it was meant to be like a graphical showcase of what the PS4 is what capable of, basically. So, the fact that it looks really, really good was what they were aiming for. Gameplay, I think, was so secondary that it's just an okay game, as he says.
Light 1 looks more impressive than its sequel. Even Far Cry 4 has more attention to detail than Far Cry 5, with 4 having much more lively environments versus the more static ones of 5. Battlefield 1's destructibility and details beat out 2042.
I hate that it's gone. Why? No, it's there, but it's not as beautiful as, like, let's say Battlefield 2, Battlefield 1. It's just, oh my god, they reduced it so much for no reason. You before you make it even more bigger, more explodies, more booms. You know what I mean? I said people like guys like Destruction, guys who are playing Battlefield, bro. Maybe you have some girls, but guys are mostly playing and they like big booms. We like big booms.
And it's not even close. Infamous Second Son, Arkham Knight. These games still outshine games 8 to 9 years later visually. The graphical technology and more high-res textures are doing a lot of the heavy lifting for modern AAA developers because somehow we keep seeing regressions in so many different areas over the years.
Especially gameplay.
It's not just the visuals, but the animations too. But I'll save that for another day. Environmental storytelling is the most effective way to tell a story and immerse us in a world. Humans are visual creatures, and exposition dumping is often a big turnoff. This doesn't mean that dialogue or even some exposition is a bad thing, far from it. But it's important to make sure that the visuals speak for themselves, and the dialogue and exposition service the visuals, rather than the other way around. I think a game like Firewatch does this almost perfectly, and I plan to cover that in a future video, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that one. Thank you guys for watching, leave your thoughts on the discussion of art style versus graphics in the comments section, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Well guys, that's the end of that video. So, as you said, leave your comments in the comment section about art style versus art direction. For me, I already said it, like, fuck it, art style or I think you mean graphics over something. Art style and art direction beats graphics overall, but again, as I already said, gameplay trumps everything. The gameplay loop, if the gameplay loop is great, then no one gives a fuck about anything else. Look at Vampire Survivors. Hell, look at Schedule 1. Look at all these new games that come out. All you need is a good gameplay loop, and like really graphics are second, tertiary. Maybe that the fourth. I don't know what word that is, but anyway. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe if you like the video, and I will see you in another one.